third type of ratio, that is activity ratio. See, activity ratio, also termed as performance or turnover ratio, measures how well the resources of the organization can be utilized. So, this ratio measures the effectiveness with which enterprises uses its available resources. So, the ratios are mainly calculated on the basis of cost of revenue from operation, that is cost of goods sold, or revenue from operation, that is net sale. So, turnover ratios, higher the ratios, it is better that capital or the resources are used in a better way. Activity ratios are always expressed in times. See, in activity ratio, there are 4 different type of ratios, that is inventory turnover ratio, working capital turnover ratio, then trade payables turnover ratio and trade receivable turnover ratio. So, these ratios are expressed in times. Now, first ratio we will take into account inventory turnover ratio. See, inventory turnover ratio means ratio which is going to establish a relationship between cost of revenue from operation. What is cost of revenue from operation? That is cost of goods sold and average inventory carried during the year. So, the main objective of computing this inventory turnover ratio is to ascertain whether investment in stock have been judicious or not. That only the required amount is invested in stock. It measures the efficiency of inventory management. So, it is mainly based to check the inventory, that the stock which has been used effectively or not. So, it is calculated by cost of revenue from operation, that is cost of goods sold, divided by average inventory. How will you find out cost of revenue from operation? See, this cost of revenue from operation is otherwise called as cost of goods sold. So, it can be calculated by revenue from operation minus gross profit. What is revenue from operation, children? Revenue from operation, other name for revenue from operation is net sale is the revenue from operation. So, revenue from operation minus gross profit, if you calculate, you can get cost of revenue from operation, or revenue from operation plus gross profit, you can add, gross loss. If they have given you gross loss, you add the gross loss to the revenue from operation. Or you can find the revenue from operation by opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. If you do, you will be getting revenue, cost of revenue from operation. See, this formula, opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock, it is actually your trading account. Do you remember the format of trading account, children, which you have done in class 11 in your final accounts? We will have 2 opening stock, then we will have 2 purchases, then we will have 2 direct expenses we will have, then minus, here we will be doing by closing stock. So, closing stock, actually what is cost of revenue from operation? It is nothing but net sales you are going to find out. So, if you add all this and subtract the closing stock, you will be getting the net sale, that is cost of revenue from operation. So, now how to find out the average inventory? Average inventory is equal to opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2 will give you the average inventory. So, let us do some sums related to inventory turnover ratio. First sum in inventory turnover ratio, the sum which is given is cost of revenue from operations, that is 4,50,000. Then inventories at the beginning of the year 1 lakh, inventories at the end of the year 1,25,000. So we need to calculate inventory turnover ratio. Inventory turnover ratio is equal to cost of revenue from operation divided by average inventory. In this sum they have given you directly. So directly cost of revenue from operation is 4,50,000. We need to find out the average inventory. What is average inventory? Opening inventory, that is inventory at the beginning of the year plus inventory at the end of the year divided by 2. So inventories at the beginning of the year is 1 lakh. Inventories at the end of the year is 1,25,000 divided by 2, which will give you 2,25,000 divided by 2, which is average inventory is 1,12,500. So cost of revenue from operation is 4,50,000 divided by average inventory 1,12,500 will give you 4 times is your answer. Now the second sum is they've given you cost of revenue from operation 3 lakh, purchases 3,30,000, opening inventory 60,000 they've given you. Now we have the inventory turnover ratio is equal to cost of revenue from operation divided by average inventory. So here it is not a problem. We can get the cost of revenue from operation as 3 lakh directly from the sum. But we need to find out the average inventory. What is average inventory? Average inventory is opening inventory, opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. Okay. Now we don't have closing inventory itself. Now how can you find out closing inventory? Now cost of revenue from operation, I told you various methods of finding out. That is revenue from operation minus gross profit plus net loss if it is. And another method of finding the cost of revenue from operation, I showed you the trading account format. What is a trading account format, children? In trading account format, cost of revenue from operation is equal to opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. If you find out, you will get the cost of revenue from operation. Now with this formula, can we find out the closing stock? Yes, obviously we can do it. Now we have the revenue from operation as 3 lakh as revenue from operation is equal to, we have the opening stock which is given here 60,000. We have the purchases, that is 3,30,000 is your purchases. We don't have direct expenses, so not required for you to take the direct expenses minus closing stock, because we need to find out the closing stock here. So can we bring the closing stock here and then the this one cost of revenue from operation over there? Yes, we can do it. So here if we bring the closing stock and 3,60,000 plus 3,30,000 will give you 3,90,000. Bring the cost of revenue from operation in the opposite side, so it becomes 3 lakh. So by this you can find out the closing stock. Your closing stock is 90,000. Now how did I do it? I applied the formula of cost of revenue from operation, that is opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. Now I have the revenue from operation as 3 lakh, opening stock is 60,000, purchases 3,30,000 minus closing stock. Since we don't have direct expenses, we have not taken. So now what did I do? I have added this 60,000 and 3,30,000, it became 3,90,000. I brought this closing stock in this side, and when you bring this 3,90,000 lakh here, it becomes minus. So 3,90,000 plus minus 3 lakh will give you closing stock as 30,000. Now we can easily find out the average inventory. So average inventory. See, closing stock or closing inventory, both are the same. The inventory mean itself, it is a stock only. So average inventory, opening inventory is 60,000. What is the closing inventory? Closing stock which we found out. This is 90,000 divided by 2. So 60 plus 90 will give you 1,50,000. 1,50,000 divided by 2 is 75,000 is your closing stock divided by 2, which is 75,000. Now you can apply the inventory turnover ratio. So in inventory turnover ratio, it is cost of goods sold is, what is the cost of revenue from operation is 3 lakh. Then you have 75,000. How many times is 75,000 in 3 lakh? It is 4 times. So here in the sum you have to apply your formula. That is the reason in the beginning itself I gave you the information of how to find out the revenue from operation, cost of revenue from operation in different method. Now look into the third sum. It is again a different sum. Now the third sum. Total sale is 2,20,000. Sales return is 20,000. Gross profit 50,000. Closing inventory 60,000. Excess of closing inventory over opening inventory is 20,000. Now we have to find out cost of revenue from operation. Another method I told you, cost of revenue from operation. Since they have given you gross profit, how can you calculate the cost of revenue from operation? See, cost of revenue from operation we can find out by net sales. That is, revenue from operation is your net sales. Net sale minus gross profit. Yes. Now, net sale. When I say net sale, what is a net sale? Net sale is total sales minus sales written will give you the net sale. So, net sale will be 2,20,000 minus 20,000, which will give you 2 lakh as your net sale. Your gross profit is 50,000. So subtract 50,000. So you get the cost of revenue from operation, that is 1,50,000. Now here they have given you closing inventory. Closing inventory as how much is the closing inventory, children? It is 60,000. Now opening inventory. See, now they have said excess of closing inventory over opening inventory is 20,000. That means your closing inventory is 20,000 more than that of opening inventory. Again to come again, excess of closing inventory over opening inventory is 20,000. Meaning is your opening inventory, that is your closing inventory is 20,000 more than that of opening inventory. So your opening inventory, I can find out your opening inventory is 20,000 less than that of the closing. So 60,000 minus 20,000, which will give you 40,000 as your opening inventory. So now you have to find out what is your average inventory. Average is opening inventory, that is 40,000 plus 60,000 divided by 2, that is 1 lakh divided by 2 is equal to 50,000 is your average inventory. Now we have to apply the formula cost of revenue from operation divided by average inventory. So cost of revenue from operation is 1,50,000 is the cost of revenue from operation, and your average inventory is 50,000. So 1,50,000 divided by 50 will give you 3 times as your answer. So activity ratios are always expressed in times. Only solvency ratios and liquidity ratio are called as a pure ratio except this interest coverage ratio, which is also expressed in times. Now the second ratio in activity ratio is working capital turnover ratio. This is a very easy ratio since we have already discussed about revenue from operation and working capital. So working capital turnover ratio is going to give you a relationship between the revenue from operation and working capital. The main objective of computing this ratio is to ascertain whether or not working capital has been efficiently used in generating revenue. So working capital turnover ratio is revenue from operations divided by working capital. So we all know revenue from operation. What is revenue from operation? Revenue from operation is your net sales is called as revenue from operation. Working capital, we have also discussed about working capital. That is current asset minus current liability is your working capital. Now in this sum, they have given you revenue from operation as 30 lakh, current assets as 9 lakh and current liability as 3 lakh. Now find out the working capital. So if I want to find out the working capital, that is current assets minus current liability. Current asset is 9 lakh is a current asset. Current liability is 3 lakh is your current liability. So your working capital becomes 6 lakh is your working capital. Now if I apply the formula revenue from operation divided by working capital, I will get working capital turnover ratio. So revenue from operation is 30 lakh is your revenue from operation which is given in the sum. Then working capital is 6 lakh is your working capital. Now if you apply this, you will get 5 times as your working capital. Okay, this is a very easy sum. Now the second sum, children, to find out working capital turnover ratio. Now here they have given you revenue from operation is 12 lakh, current asset is 5 lakh, total asset is 8 lakh. Here current asset, total asset, non-current liability is 4 lakh, shareholders fund is 2 lakh they have given you. Now here when we apply the formula revenue from operation, I don't have any issue because revenue from operation is given as 12 lakh in the sum directly. And now I have to find out working capital. Working capital is current asset minus current liability. I have current asset, but do I have current liability? No. I have total asset, non-current liability, shareholders fund. Now let us find out current liability. I can apply the formula and show you how to find out current liability. Just always remember your balance sheet. What is balance sheet? Shareholders fund, non-current liabilities, current liabilities, and then non-current assets, current assets. This is what? Okay. Now which one I need to find out? I need to find out this part, that is current liability. Now here current asset is there, non-current asset is there. I don't want non-current asset. They have given you total asset as what? 8 lakh is your total asset. That is this one plus this one is 8 lakh. That is current asset is 5 lakh. So non-current asset obviously it should be 3 lakh they have given you. Now they have given you non-current liability as 4 lakh they have given you and shareholders fund as 2 lakh. Always in balance sheet, what is that? Asset is equal to capital plus liability. So 8 lakh minus 6 lakh, that is 2 lakh, and 6 lakh will give you your current liability is 2 lakh. Now you can apply the formula very easily. So current liability is equal to total asset minus shareholders fund minus non-current liability. That is total asset is 8 lakh minus shareholders fund 2 lakh minus share non-current liability 4 lakh, which will give you 2 lakh as your current liability. I could have directly applied the formula and I could have told you current liability. But if you recall the balance sheet and do it, it will be an easy method. Always remember that headings of the balance sheet. So now we have the current liability. Current asset. Current asset is, how much is the current asset? 5 lakh. Now let us find out working capital. Working capital is equal to current asset 5 lakh minus current liability 2 lakh. So working capital is 3 lakh is your working capital. Now we need to apply the formula, that is revenue from operation divided by working capital to find out working capital turnover ratio. Working capital turnover ratio is equal to cost of revenue from operation, that is 12 lakh divided by working capital 3 lakh, which we found out, which will give you 4 times as your answer. So please practice different kind of sums. It is not just applying the formula and getting the answer. You should be very clear with the balance sheet format and how to find out in different means you have to bring into picture, children. Then it is very easy only. Thank you for watching this video.